Welcome. So first question, please describe why you are running and your qualifications for being a school board trustee.
In 2 minutes, huh?
Okay.
I'm a community activist, social justice activist, National Board of Amnesty International for 10 years. Now I'm the chair of the largest chapter of the ACLU, so social justice concerns me. There's a deficit of that in all districts, but ours is suffering too. As Dr. Harder said in his last message at the community breakfast, we're suffering from racism and economic conditions. I was a teacher for 40 years. The first 4 years were at a Catholic school as a Dominican. The other 36 years were in public schools. I've always brought community activity into the classroom, so they knew about the apartheid movement. We used to take food to the farmers first in the 60s in Delano, California. I was on the school board before, so I know a lot about how the school board works. And I think you need a very loud, vocal, someone who will not shut up about the deplorable graduation rates of a lot of our students of color in our district. We need to work more on that. The dismal pay that we give our teachers is, I'm surprised that they stay with us. 2 teachers have come to me when I taught at Richmond High after I retired, doing subbing, and said, Antonio, I'm married with a new kid on the road, and I've been offered a job that offers $8,000 more, but I love Richmond High. And I said, go, your family comes first. A math teacher, almost within the same couple of months, asked me the same thing. What do you recommend that I do? Because they trusted my response. I told them the same thing. Your family comes first. We need to find a way to better pay our teachers and keep the teachers who are excellent teachers in our district, because they're leaving us. When we go across the bay to Marin, where I taught for over almost 20 years at Tamalpais High School, they're going to be getting $8,000 to $10,000 more. It's a good reason to move across the bay. Now, can they afford to live over there? That's another question.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yan. So the second question that you mentioned as one of your top priorities is to increase the graduation rate for all
Yes.
students who touch on it right now through tutoring, staff development, restorative justice, and more. Some of these things are happening in the district now.
Not enough.
But as a board member, what specifically would you ask for, and what do you think will change?
Identify those students who are doing poorly, for example, in English, and tell them and the parents, your son or daughter needs to come to tutoring during the day, after school, and even Saturday school to improve their English proficiency. The same thing with math and the science classes. Identify those kids who are having difficulties for whatever reason. Maybe they haven't been here long enough and they haven't mastered English. Give them the tutoring necessary, and we have the funds for that. It's called local control funding formula, and we use the money for that. Also, we have to have teachers who understand the needs of our students of color. That many times their parents are not graduates of grammar school, high school, or even college. Even though we do have some who have PhDs, but can't get papers to work in this country.
So I can cover the third question. So the third question is another priority that you mentioned is to increase compensation for all teachers. And so as you know, this past year, the district worked with UTR and they were able to confirm a paid salary raise. And so how would you adjust the budget to fund an additional salary increase in the future?
First of all, find out how much is still available in local control funding from. Remember, you're all familiar with local control? Okay. We can use it if at the end result, the graduation is going to increase, the AP scores will increase, all those good, metric signs. We tried, when I was on the board, to do a survey. Will the voters approve a partial tax just for salaries and compensation? And every time we did it, the voters said no, no. Maybe we should try it again and have teachers speak to the issue. We live here. I can't afford to live in Marin. My friends where I retired from in San Francisco are fleeing San Francisco. They can't afford to live there anymore. Oakland is becoming difficult too, so they come to West County. Maybe we need teacher advocates who say, a partial tax would help us. We keep teachers here. and of course, you know, the benefits.
Can I ask a follow-up question? Would you consider an incentive performance pay for teachers?
No, because I think you end up creating separate classes of teachers. Because your friend for the principal, I'm going to lean more toward Jill and not the other people. I think maybe create another pay, in the pay scale, create another rank for more courses that they take at the community college or at the university in ethnic studies or women's studies or whatever. You know, the pay scale, you get paid according to how many credits you have, plus your bachelor's degree and your credential. So create that scale. Creating a separate classification like for Teach for America and other teachers, I think it creates a division. It can be easily manipulated by some principals and some superintendents, and to me that's dangerous.
Someone asked a question number 4, you want to do it?
Ándale, Alex. The professor in español,
I'm getting out of the process.
No, we can follow up with the way with the board.
Okay, I'll do it.
how come you get 3?
Alex is
Alex is verbal, I know him. Go ahead.
Okay, all right, as long as Alex does the next one. So you served on the school board from 2008 to 2012.
Right, and we paid off the state debt.
What would you characterize as your biggest success and your biggest disappointment from your time on the board? And how do you see those?
Go ahead.
And how do you see those decisions impacting our schools today?
The drastic, horrific cuts that were imposed upon us by the state, they kept on cutting back, cutting back, cutting back. There was a point at which we were considering even closing Kennedy High School because we didn't have the money. Until Richmond stepped up and San Pablo stepped up, the 2 cities, and gave us money to keep the San Pablo schools open and Kennedy open. It was horrific because we were just strapped. We didn't have the money to pay for everything we wanted to pay for it. Now that we have, because of the voters of the state of California, funding aimed strictly at low-income English language students and foster kids, we've got that money. But it's got to be said carefully with metrics. I was the only adult who signed on to the lawsuit in our district. And the Office of Education from Sacramento came down and told our district, you can't do that. Because they were not getting permission of the parents on the LCAP committee. And I signed on to that. They said, aren't you afraid? What are they going to fire me? Plus I'll lay a lawsuit against them too. So yeah. It's a big difference from back in 2008. Economic conditions were dismal.
Antonio, your biggest success?
My biggest success as a board member or as a teacher?
As a board member.
Pushing for what now we call restorative justice. That ugly incident that happened in Richmond, the incident that happened at Hercules with lesbian gay students. Getting translations at our school boards, even though not enough people come. And I've told parents that if you want to speak, call me and I'll go with you to the school board meeting and translate for you. We initiated that in those days. And being vocal, I visited twice a week campuses in our district, all the 4 years I was in the school board. Parents at Lake said, we've never seen a school board member before. Parents said the same thing. Grant said, we put a star next to their name because you actually came and visited and talked to the parents. I did a lot of that. And talked to the workers too, the local one folks.
So you stated that you would not have voted in favor of additional funds for the Pinole Valley construction project. And you said, in quote, how do I explain to the community that some of our schools' needs will not be addressed, but we are spending $20 million on a sports complex on a high school? And so, end quote.
To this day, I still have trouble explaining that. But
And
you
so
know,
many
but you know why they did it?
Well, hold on, let me finish.
Oh, sorry.
So many construction projects and expensive change orders were approved during your time on the board. So if you can please tell us about your role in the past.
Do you remember who was on the board back in those days?
Oh, wait, hold on. Regarding bond funds and how you might think differently if you serve again. And
The political structure of the school board has changed completely. Back in those days, we had one man The tradition in California is you rotate president of the board. So there's the members of the board get a chance to be president. I was vice president the entire time I was there, because every time I tried, I got outvoted. And it was managed by the then board president, Charles Ramsey. And he kept on saying, we need more Latinos. Well, why do you keep on stalling me? There's a lot of changes. Now we're having money. Now we have money. But our enrollment is dropping in some of our schools. I think we should go ahead and finish those schools that we promised to do and do it. But do you know why they continued with the El Cerrito Auditorium? Guess who votes? El Cerrito always votes. You don't get their vote, you won't make it to the school board. That's politics. I know, I talked to people up in El Cerrito. And today I mentioned the fact that got one of them really mad at me at another interview. There's a broken window at one of our grammar schools in the flatlands of San Pablo. It's been broken now for 3 months. They had to put plywood up. And I mentioned at the previous interview, at lunchtime, if that broken window was in Kensington or El Cerrito, it'd be fixed tonight, ready for school on Monday. But because it is in the low flatland schools in Richmond, San Pablo, where working class students of color live, and most of them attend those schools, they just throw up. Grant had 4 broken windows. They couldn't get them fixed. You know what the principal did? She put up plywood, cholo style. But you know what she did then? She had the students decorate the plywood with flowers and growing things. Now they're gorgeous. I love them.
Thank you.
Ándale, Alex.
Okay.
¿Te contesto en español o en inglés?
Vamos a seguir en inglés.
Okay, muy bien.
Our district is certainly incredibly diverse, and you stated many concerns about racial and socioeconomic inequity, stereotype, threat, and lack of services for non-English speakers that are affecting our students and families today. How do you see, as a board member, what role will you play addressing those issues?
And changing the culture of the community?
On how to address the racial stereotyping.
Okay. When I was on the school board, they told me I was the first school board member to tell our board we need to contact lawyers to do free counseling at Dijon Middle School for immigration issues. We had 6 lawyers showed up and volunteered their days. Some to ask simple questions, some to ask how I want to become a U.S. citizen. I pushed that. No other school board in the state had ever done that, except one later on in San Diego. 2, we need teachers who are responsive to the specific needs of our community. I'm tired of hearing from parents who tell me, Antonio, I sat in the office for 5, 10, 15 minutes and no one talks to me. ¿Por qué? Why? Because I don't speak fluent English. And the staff in the office just looks at it and goes, I tell her, what do you want? And the comment is still heard, you and I know, when they say, why don't you people speak English? Those kind of people should be retired and bring in people who have a sensitivity to all the needs of our students. African American, Latino, and Asian. We have to work on that. I'm the only school board member that tell me in the history of California, as a board member, I took on the immigration rate in my neighborhood, and I challenged them when they were pounding on the door at 5 o'clock in the morning. I went up and asked them, what are you doing? And they said, if you don't leave, we're going to arrest you. I got so pissed. I went back to my house, got my wallet, came back, and I said, I'm a member of Amnesty International. I'm former chair of the community. I'm a school board member now. How can I help you? And suddenly it became very nice. They did have legal papers signed by a judge for the young man in the house, but I would not let them into the house. We got the young man out. That happens a lot.
But how do you specifically address this?
How do I what?
A specific address, what is that you bring to the table to the board to correct this unfairness?
I think the board needs training on minority issues, immigration issues, civil rights issues. When we had that ugly incident at Hercules High School about the lesbian gay student, I got a call from Dr. Harder saying, Antonio, don't make this an ACLU issue. I said, well, good, you had it until 12 o'clock. Then I'm calling the lawyers in the city. We have to immediately address those concerns. Some of you still remember a meeting at one of our grammar schools back in 2008, 2009, where a lot of Latino parents were complaining about the principal being not respected of Latinos. And the principal was heard to say, with a gathering of Latino parents, I wonder what would happen if the KKK. And our parents heard that. Can you imagine what was the relationship from then on with the parents of the school? We have to address that. Teachers need staff development. And sometimes board members do too. When you live in the communities where you don't have working class people, you have a different impression of what the students are like. I don't live in El Cerrito. I don't live in Kennington. I live in a working class neighborhood in Montalban Manor, and I'm proud to do that. So it's the attitude that you bring. Also, the textbooks that come through our system to be adopted by the board, I checked the ones in English and history. They still repeat the same lies and distortions from the 1950s. The Texans fought for liberty. Puro pedo. They fought to extend slavery. Anyway.
Thank you.
Gracias.
All right. Next one.
Oh, I was the founder of ethnic studies at college in Marin, till we got released because we were too radical.
Many people consider the ability and willingness to listen as a critical trait for effective and responsive leaders.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself being a strong listener in your role as a school board member if elected?
When I was on the board, I attended community meetings, both in Sao Paulo and Richmond, meetings outside the Hilltop, and listened to the parents' concerns. And so many times I heard, they don't listen to us because we don't speak the English that they speak. I visited schools, talked to the workers, local one folks, talked to the teachers, and they kept saying, come back. They even asked me to be Santa Claus at one of the schools. I've lost enough weight since then, so I'm not doing that anymore. But you have to listen. Listen to the students and listen to the workers. This divide that we have between teachers and the administration, I think that school, as I did, school board members should, at least many times a month, listen to the people in the teachers union. What are your concerns? I know what they were in some of the schools, and teachers were ready to organize against the principals because she was not responsive to the needs. So listen. You listen and then take action. If you say you're going to be there, be there. ¿Otra vez?
Let me try again.
Okay. Maybe I didn't understand your question.
What troubled me is, see the outcomes of the district. So has not been, in my opinion, I know we can do much better. And the question is what it would take to make our district one of the best.
Leadership on the part of the superintendent, now we have a new one who's bilingual, blew me away when I spoke to him in Spanish at the community breakfast we had for him. And aggressively pushing all those areas where our students of color are doing poorly. Find out why. And pour the attention on those students. Get the tutoring on those students. If we need extra counselors, hire extra counselors. Local control gives you that ability to shift funds from one area to another. and address those specific needs. I still get parents who tell me, Antonio, my daughter is now in middle school, but I wanted to go back to the school and get dental care because she was at Perry's. And we have a dental clinic at Coronado. Many schools don't have that ability. So listen to the parents and see what they have to say. And support the parents. And listen to them. I've been trying for years to get parents not to check that blasted box that says you speak Spanish at home. Because once you check that box, the student gets locked into ESL classes that offer no credit for college incidentally, and they can't get out. So I tell them, don't check the box. I know students who speak English at home. Parents speak English, and because they made the mistake of checking the box, and every time the student takes the test to get out of those classes, they fool around. They say, they don't listen to me anyway. Our reclassification rate should be 100% in our schools. Otherwise, we're doing something wrong. If a student has been in our system since the 2nd or 3rd grade, and they're now in middle school, or even high school, and they're still in ESL classes, something is seriously wrong. Let's go back and see, what is it that they did not learn? I was at some schools where the ESL students said, here's a coloring book, do that, I'm busy. In a school, instead of teaching them something.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So let's now open it up to our open-ended questions. We have 15 minutes for that. Anybody would like to start?
I think, I think you certainly have the advantage of having had the experience of being a school board member
And being blocked over
before.
and over and over again, yes.
Can you speak to what you would, kind of going in there in your first 90 days, the first year, where would you put your stakes in the ground, particularly around this issue of equity for children who have different needs in the school district? You're going to hit the ground running, where are you going to put your energy?
First question I would ask, as I asked I was on the budget advisory committee, before I was on the board, when I was on the board, and after I was on the board. We asked so many questions about, just tell me, to the district, give us a breakdown of local control funding formula, for example, at Lake. And the response was, it's on the website, go look it up. I said, no. Give me a sheet of paper that I can show a parent. This much money is spent on counseling, security, or whatever. We have to address those needs. And if they can't, then we should do some changes in the administration of our district. We complain and ask so many questions about where is the partial tax money going. Tell me, at Richmond High, how much are they getting in partial tax? We ask so many questions, and I'm a former board member. But you know what the district did? They dissolved the committee. They got rid of the blasted committee. And I'm waiting to hear, and I know the people, when are they going to reestablish the budget advisory committee? I'm still waiting. And I'm not going to call them. They're supposed to tell us. They knew they were canceling the meeting, the whole agenda, 2 meetings before the last meeting. The last meeting, they said, well, this committee will cease to exist as of tonight. And we asked, why? Well, we're reorganizing. Bull. They didn't like the questions being asked. That's fine. Accountability is called. So you got to follow up on that. But identify the specific needs of the students.
So transparency, accountability.
Transparency and accountability. I hammer away at that all the time. And we were kept on being told by the then board president, if we run out of money with this project, don't worry, we'll sell another one. So we'll always catch up, this way. And not look where we are.
Thank you.
Reflecting on your past board experience, is there anything, knowing we should know now, you would have done differently during that time?
Yes, we need to reinvigorate the school site councils because they're the ones that decide how the money is spent on the school site, and train the parents. And don't just tell them once, like anything else, adults too. We've got to be told it again and again and again. 2, train the parents who serve on the LCAT, the parent committee that decides how to spend the money. I know parents, and some of you are here, who tell me, we had a meeting and they said, here, we need this passed by tonight, vote on it. Yes, okay, good, now I gotta go to another meeting. It's gotta be fully discussed. And the reason we filed a lawsuit against the district was, the parents told us, we were not told where the money was going. So we just said, okay, I vote for it, not knowing, not understanding. And when you have parents who recently joined the board at that level, and things are not in Spanish, what do you expect? Treat our parents like human beings with respect and explain to them. Will it take an extra half an hour? Probably. Then do it. That's what our parents expect. Explain things to them. I go to parent meetings at Richmond High, because I taught there after I retired as a sub. And parents there ask me, Antonio, what's this local control thing all about? So somehow the information they're getting up here, the parent committee, is not filtered down to all the schools. I get the same question from the parents at Grant. What's local control all about? So we're not doing a decent job of educating our students and our parents. I think, and I would push it since I'm a former government teacher, all our students have to take government and economics before they graduate. I think part of their government class should be a week of explaining what local control funding formula is, because we need student input also. And make sure they understand that. We're now beginning to have a fully functioning youth commission. It was not true before.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody from this half of the room?
Miriam, questions? I'm good.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
We serve on the
Healthy Richmond.
Healthy Richmond Alliance. We're the ones that filed the lawsuit.
So I was gonna ask you about, we've been talking about it in our other circles, African American achievement, and I wanted to get your thoughts on how you're gonna be supporting that as a board member and, what you would like to
There
see.
still exists a reticence on the part of some of our staff, teachers, and also support staff, who view students of color as they're not going to make it anyway. She's going to get pregnant, so why worry about her? When I was in charge, I started a committee that was called the High School Committee when I was on the board. And we visited different high schools in our area, we rotated. And I remember visiting one of the high schools and we found out that the African American students were like not even a third of the student body, but they were 95% of the expulsions. And when the principal told me that, I go, well, what's happening? Well, they stand up and yell at the teacher. So did you ever think of using restorative justice? Work that into all the classrooms? And I told the principal, if this doesn't change, you won't have a job next year. The principal was no longer there. But I was amazed. And he just said, well, they talk back. So? So you have to, again, staff development with some of the schools where we have that problem. And work with them. Integrate. First of all, we need more teachers that look like our students. Who understand the cultural history, the ethnicity, etc. of that. But our graduation rates for black African American students is deplorable. It's awful. Same thing for Latinos. We're not doing that now. And that's what the local control money is all about. Pour money into those programs. Raise them up. We know the students who are already individually inspired to do better, like the ones that attend Middle College. Middle College is our glowing example of something that really works. They're on a college campus. The majority of them graduate not only with a diploma, but with an AA degree. So it can work. And also get the college teachers, because that's where most of our students go, community college students. Get their English teachers to talk to our English teachers and ask them, what do you expect when they take the English exam at Contra Costa College? Tell our teachers. Same thing with math and science.
Thank you, Antonio.
They never talk to each other. When I left the board, that committee disappeared.
Tony, it wasn't,
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes, you.
myself. I'm interested, like, the alignment between elementary and middle and high. Do we really need to talk to each other, or isn't that?
Yes, we
already-
do.
Hold on, let me finish, please.
Oh, sorry.
Isn't it mapped out, like we know curriculum-wise where they need to be? So that's something we already know where they need to be. Like having a conversation, is there a more constructive way that we get results? Because I hear a lot of, I think a lot of wisdom around tutoring, but I think as a former teacher, I think a lot about what's actually happening in the classroom, that we don't just try to solve everything with tutoring, we try to direct the effectiveness
Yeah.
of the school day. Any ideas around that?
Innovative teaching. You know, try new things. What did you teach?
English,
English.
high school English.
In the 40 years I was in the classroom, 36 of which in public schools, I never sat down. I remember going to speak to teachers to give a presentation on Cinco de Mayo or whatever it was, and the teacher never left the desk. Like she was glued, he and she was glued to the floor. We have to try innovative ways to do it. And I agree with you. The teachers in my Montalban school never talked to the teachers in the middle school.
Mhm.
And I asked the principal once, why not? We're so busy with everything.
Yeah.
Now you want us to do one more thing? When am I gonna find doing after school? No way, I'm not going after school. We have to find a better way of communicating that. Maybe it means the middle school teachers visiting the grammar schools, the feeder schools. Same thing with the high school teachers visiting the middle schools. Work it out. We need better communication. But I know teachers at some of our grammar schools who have never set foot on the middle school campus. We've got to find a way of breaking down that wall. It exists at every single level, and especially at high schools. I asked one teacher, well, what did you learn in social studies or that area? Oh, I don't care, we're going to teach it at our level, but then you don't know if they come prepared or not.
Thank you. We have time for 2 more questions.
I have a question. So a lot of people say that there's a lot of divisiveness right now on the board. If you were elected, what type of colleague would you be as a board member, and what would you hope to see in the culture of the board member?
You have to work together, that's the key number rule. And sometimes, I lost the vote many times, because I was one vote. You need a majority. You gotta find out how to work together. We have different personalities, and you have to work together. I'm glad they finally broke the ironclad rule they had before, where one person can become president for 5 years, or his companion can become president for 5 years. They broke that, and I want to make sure that stays broken and rotated, so everyone gets a chance to be president of the board. We come to the board with different backgrounds. Not all of them are teachers. I think we need somebody with a strong head for economics. I'm on the bond oversight committee. I was on it before, during, and after. And there's sometimes I look at these figures and I go, wow, I need somebody to explain it to me. Much more of that. Much more, I think, I hate to call them retreats, but somewhere to get the board to work together. We had a board at one time when I was on it, where board members would yell at the audience. Get up and yell. And we tried to stop that, and it was, some of you remember those horrible days. And parents said, I'm not gonna go to the board meeting and be yelled at by an elected board member. So, yeah, but you gotta work it out. It's difficult sometimes. Depends on who you are, where you're from. If you're not a teacher or didn't come from a strong education background, I didn't, my parents never finished grammar school. If you don't understand the need of certain families, give me an example.
And Tammy, before you do the example, we're running out of time.
Okay.
Time for one last question. I want you to get out of here at one last question, and then we'll wrap it up.
So I know you referenced quite a few times the lawsuit by public advocates that you participated in with the affidavit letter. And so even with that example, that's a contentious issue because earlier you spoke about teacher salaries, which is really important, especially to educators. And the way that the lawsuit came about was because of the
Yeah.
process and
Yeah.
how they tried to use the funds. And as you referenced both, and in that just example, not one example, it's very contentious. You have people on both sides, people who felt like that was an appropriate way to navigate, what public advocates did, or that they disagreed completely. And so you trying to hold that middle line of agreeing and disagreeing, at the same time, what
Let me respond. The state is very clear. You need the participation of the parents and the students when you're moving money around. They did not do that adequately enough. So parents voted not knowing where it was going. We're never against increasing salaries and benefits. No, it was a process that was not followed. And for the state board to come down and talk to our district and say, you can't do that. It was a process.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have to make sure that parents are not afraid to speak up. We still talk to parents, you and I both. We say, me da miedo, I'm afraid to, what is NAACP, what is that, what's SEC? And many times, people will say, well, we'll talk about it later. No, we talk about it right then.
So my question is around the fact that those are contentious, how do you navigate those contentious issues where people still will disagree that the process wasn't wrong? And also, what kind of compromises would you make as an elected official?
Compromise on what?
On either side, because sometimes it's like you're making a decision and one entity will believe that you're not
If the
taking their side.
parent group who's legally authorized to say yes or no on transfers of money or positions, if you've had a full discussion of how many members of the group, is it 19, 20? Parents, right? If they're full discussion and they discuss it and they reach a point, then that's their choice. They did not know that when they voted on that.
And so then in general, that's just one example, but how would you navigate contentious issues? Or how would you, if you felt like you needed to compromise, how would you navigate that? You're dealing with all these different constituencies.
Then that particular group needs what we call staff development. There's groups out there and organizations that can help you work these things out. They need what we would call staff development or parent education. We used to have that in something called, I forget the name, we don't have it anymore. A group in the San Diego area would come up and do training of parents, much like what you do. I forgot the name. And we had it going for a few years where parents were taught how to speak up, how to talk, how not to be afraid.
Thank you, Medrano.
Sure.